Everybody, I'm not that used to wearing a microphone. Can you tell me if I'm going too loud? I'm just used to shouting. Right, so my name's Chicot. I'm the CEO of MathsWorld UK, which is a charity aiming to set up the UK's first maths discovery centre. And I was also asked to tell you that I did do my undergraduate studies here. I did an undergraduate in maths and philosophy and did a PhD in pure mathematics. I also, my main role, or should I say my paid role, is that I work as a senior lecturer, staff tutor at the Open University. So I'm still doing maths alongside the maths outreach. Yeah, I think that's all you need to know about me. So, could I just ask quickly, who was here last year and heard me speak about MathsCity last year? So we'll have a bit of a recap, but I just wanted to see how many people. Right, okay, so that's not too bad. That's only like a third of you will have a repeat. So this is kind of like, what should I say, in the previous episode. So MathsWorld UK is a charity aiming to set up the first maths discovery centre. And it's really about showing the true face of maths. So we want to show maths how attractive it can be, how interesting and how playful. But we also want to show where people are using maths. So I think the idea that maths is a large part of fluid dynamics would be a complete revelation to the majority of the public. And it's a little bit like what you were talking about in the panel earlier. You were asking how we could get more women interested. I went to a really good Women in STEM conference, and it was a kind of a revelation to me that we could be promoting the sciences and STEM in all different ways of appealing to people. We could be saying, oh, it's really intellectual and challenging and you'll really enjoy that. Or you might say, oh, it's really technical. You can really start fiddling with things. You know, you can get into the technology and make something new. Or you could say, you can really use this technology, this STEM, this science, to help people. You know, you could be getting medicines off to people deep in the jungle, or you could be taking lonely people in homes and giving them robotics that support them. So you can appeal to different people's motivations, and I think addressing the range of motivations and showing people the true face of maths is one of the ways that we can make sure we get representation from all people in society. We want to get all types of people with all types of interest into the subject. So look at the different ways it can be applied and look at the different ways you can experience it, show it to them, and if they like one of them, good. If they don't like it, fine, but they should at least know what they say yes or no to. And that's our vision, our motivation. Apart from the fact that we want people in maths, it's kind of like, why do we want people in maths? I think that you should know a lot of this, but just as a recap, math skills and confidence are a real driver of social mobility. So there are lots of programs on literacy, as there should be, but just as close, you know, just behind literacy is numeracy, or like mathematical reasoning, as a key for social mobility. And if you can predict where people are going to go in their salaries if you look at their maths grades. So we really want to attack people's maths confidence in order to give them that social mobility. That's a personal driver for me in this type of work. But if I start to give you some of the other drivers, some people, they just want to show how beautiful maths is. That's fine. You know, whatever your motivation is, we want to get this project off the ground. But yeah, once people have got a poor relationship with maths, they have poor relationship with finance, and then this can lead to debt. You can have gambling and the associated mental health problems with it. And of course, if you haven't got maths, you haven't got the whole of STEM available to you. They all have the maths acts as like a gatekeeper for the rest of STEM. So we want to open that gate. And we do have a problem with social disparities in attainment in maths. And that was before. That quote there is from before COVID, and kids were kept off school for a year. So that's all got wider. We have a lot of support. There are a lot of people behind us, and we have people like you behind us. We've had a lot of support from the LIFD. That's enough for you to read that. So the main goal of MathsWorld UK is to make a national maths discovery centre, so a decent size. And we've pitched the size that would be around 150,000 visitors a year, focusing on this play-based type experience of maths, but showing the true face of maths. So we'll look a bit at the different types of maths we're going to show later. And it's going to be a paid for attraction so that it will be financially sustainable. This isn't just something that's going to sit and live off the government's purse. Well, they wouldn't pay for it anyway, but it's not going to happen. It's got to have its own security. And we've been working incrementally to grow the type of content. So we've been in MathsCity for 2.5 years now, or 2 years, 4 months. And we've been working on different parts of maths while we've been there. And we've been using the audience to tell us which exhibits are working, which aren't. So MathsCity, which we mentioned before. So this is what's already off the ground. This is like the story so far. We got the funding, we got a location, we get the location for free. So we have a shop inside a shopping centre. They give us it rent free. It should be about 120,000 a year. But the deal is that the local council charges 60,000 a year in business rates, and a charity will get an 80% deduction on that business rate. So we cover the business rates. They don't have to have that loss every year. And that's why you see in kind of like old northern towns, it's just full of charity shops because the landlords can't afford the business rates. And we got loads of staff and volunteers from the university. We need to go and do another recruitment round again, just in case you're interested. We'd love to have more of you there. And we opened in September 2021, right in the middle of COVID, and we had 11,500 visitors in our first year. Now, to date, this was like second year, but to date we're up to 30,000 visitors have been in MathsCity. So they've all been playing and got really good reviews on Google, good reviews on TripAdvisor, and we just want to do more of it and be bigger. Quick recap. We did do an evaluation in our first year showing increase in enjoyment. A lot that was about, oh, we didn't know maths was like this. And despite the fact it's pretty much all pure maths, one of the comments was, you should call it Science City. It's really science. Call it science. No, like expressly we're advertising this is maths, and it's not getting in. So we really are showing a different face of maths. The surprising one was the bottom one, that we didn't try and do anything to increase interest in maths at university, but we did have a big jump up in interest at studying maths at university, much bigger than you would have expected. We should probably do a second test. It's too big. So we have had, so this is the updates from last year. This is the new information. We do want it to be in West Yorkshire. We had aimed at Leeds because Leeds doesn't have any science discovery centre at all, and every other city does. However, we did a complete site search on Leeds. There is no retail, real estate. There's no real estate available, which is remotely affordable. And basically there is a wall of money chasing all Leeds' real estate for student accommodation. So you've priced us out of the market. We can't afford anything in Leeds. So we did a complete site search on Leeds. And as the picture became clearer, we started to do a site search on Bradford. Bradford has a lot of property and a lot of it's affordable. And basically Bradford is just stuck onto Leeds. If this was, it would be unthinkable in America to have these two cities so close together and count them as separate cities. I won't say that's Bradford, but basically you're adjoining. So we have identified, there were a number of available properties in Bradford, but this was the prettiest. It's on the main city square. It's opposite the town hall. It's part of like grand old Bradford with a nice new twist. And this is the one that we're working on at the minute. So we had, I'm going to say some names that might upset you now. We had an introduction, I'll just say one. We had an introduction to Michael Gove, who was extremely sympathetic to the cause of maths. It's actually a policy that's quite close to a lot of Conservative hearts, maths. It's like someone described it as a comfort blanket for the government. So it's like a comfort blanket policy. So we had an encouraging meeting with Michael Gove, who is the Secretary of State for Levelling Up. So they have capital funding available. And he encouraged us to submit a case. So none of this is definite. This is where we're up to. They encouraged us to submit a case. We're in the process of developing the case. And that involves doing complete market research, primary audience research on people within 90 minutes of Bradford. People who live within 90 minutes of Bradford is over 13 million people. So where we are now, we've got access to like a fifth of the population. It's, this M62 corridor is very densely populated. It's about time we whip some of the wealth from the south up here. We've got all the possibilities. So huge interest amongst that market research. I think it was 78% of respondents said they would definitely come or probably come. And they don't normally get those sorts of responses. So you would expect the opposite for maths. You'd think we'd be at the bottom, but people were really keen on the idea. So it shows that we could have a financially sustainable future in Bradford. We've also done a lot of work around developing philanthropists. So the philanthropists are starting to come on board. They're a lot closer than government. So it could happen, but it's quite a roller coaster. It might not happen. I'll be here next year saying, let's start again. So, but there are opportunities and possibilities. The nice thing about being in Bradford is the university doesn't have a maths department. So you will be our nearest maths department still. And then we'll be able to draw on Manchester. We've also, we're tied to the Open University. And we need to develop the content. So that's the part you're interested in. There's loads of stuff I can tell you about the administration of trying to develop getting the building. But I guess you're interested in the maths. Over the past few years, we've had a number of committee type decisions around what should be in there. And these are what we would say would represent the faces of maths, which are appealing to the public as well. So this is what we're looking at so far. And I think that Fluids Institute fits best with planet Earth, outer space, and perhaps medical research. But if you want to tell me that you fit into some of the others, I'm very open to hearing that. Maybe you want to talk about AI or something as well. So yeah, perhaps when we're coming on to your question and answer session at the end, we'll ask about that. So always happy to hear ideas about exhibits. To date, well, you can see to date, we've had support around the next two exhibits I'm going to describe. And we've also done some work with your students. So we've been really lucky with the partnership we developed with LIFD. And the first thing we did was we bought an exhibit which was on flood defences. And it's a really nice, simple exhibit where the kid makes the wave. So that they're making a much too big a wave. And then they have a choice of shapes to put in, and then they measure how much water has been spilled or saved from the village. So, which they get well into it. So that came out, 2,200 visitors enjoyed it in that particular half-term activity, and it's been in other places besides. Most recently, so then that's had hang on, I jumped over one there. I'm out of one there. Yeah, there it is. Most recently, we had a interactive sandbox installed. And this has been a big hit. So this is something that the LAFD have bought for us. It's literally a sand pit. You dig in the sand, and as you dig, the topological map projection alters to match what you've dug. So as you're digging, it's changing in real time. It's loads of fun. So you see the terrain, you get the idea of contour lines, and then it has this added hydrology feature where your hands can be the clouds and you see where the water would flow. So it's really it's kind of learning by osmosis, and you can do it from a tiny age, and it's lots of fun. And I did confess to Steve that we didn't realise it also came with a dinosaur function, which the kids like even more than the hydrology function, but it's awesome. So yeah, that's been out since mid-October, I think. Yeah, that's the one where I said it was 3,000. So that's been out since mid-October, and so it's had over 2,000 visitors. Big thing. Finally, we're using the resources from LAFD and also from a grant from the Open University to build more exhibits around chaotic Earth would be the name of it. So we have atmospheric turbulence, map projections, because it's mostly about Earth. We're having a water vortex, and we've also got an earthquake plate. So that's what's going around chaotic Earth at the minute. If you have other thoughts about chaotic Earth, that'd be good to see. And we have this one, which is a future mobility simulator, which might be more designy. Some of these things go across subjects. That's a lovely thing. That's a kind of a Lego city. And as you build it, they've all got QR codes on them. And the interactive projection maps how you would really have transport flow and how it would work and what are the consequences, how much pollution, this and that. That's very mathematical, that one. So it will end up being a really nice collection of exhibits all themed around chaotic Earth. So the other nice thing that we've had, of course, is your students who've been absolutely magical. It's been lovely to have them. They bring their own expertise. It's clear from all the feedback we get that it's the staff that people really are impressed with. I think it's nice that kind of mathsy geeky people are actually more welcoming and better with people than, somebody outside of STEM. It's been a huge success. So I want to hand over to Ciara and to Yatin to talk about the kind of outreach they've done outside and inside MathsCity. I've mostly covered inside, so we'll keep outside.
Yeah, so I'll just introduce myself first. So I'm Ciara. I work part-time at MathsCity, but I'm in my final year of my PhD, and I'm on the fluid CDT. And my PhD is looking at when you've flushed the toilet, droplets and aerosols that are produced and how that can lead to disease transmission.
Yeah, I'll just introduce myself. I'm Yetin, so I'm also in the final year of the CDT. I do a project looking at the internal and mixing dynamics of coalescing droplets. And so me and Ciara are basically just going to give you a run through of all the different LIFD-backed outreach opportunities and some examples that you can kind of get involved with going forward. But before that, we just wanted to kind of break up the session a bit. We kind of wanted to give a bit of time for you to chat amongst yourselves and kind of just maybe meet someone new and say, well, what outreach have I been part of, what I've done. And we've also got a Mentimeter that's going to ask you what activities you might like to see. So maybe that builds on what Katie was saying of maybe a possible MathsCity exhibit. So you can scan the QR code and in a second I'll flick over. So yeah, just take 5 minutes, chat amongst yourselves. And then if anyone's feeling brave, I might call upon you just to kind of answer these questions for us. Okay, thank you for your suggestions. You've basically made mine and Ciara's life a lot easier, so we'd have to think of anything now. We can just refer back to this for different ideas. We did just want to throw out there if anyone wants to maybe explain what they were thinking when they had a suggestion. I'm very open if anyone wants to chat right now. Yeah, that's cool. If you made a suggestion and wanted to elaborate on it, that was the idea. That's all right. We can. Oh,
I'm there.
So I was thinking like you could almost teach education through games. So if you like had a trajectory game where you fire, I don't know, like an arrow, like virtually maybe, but it shows like the kinematics. I think that would be really cool. Or also game theory, like maybe not this extreme, but like the prisoner's dilemma kind of thing, or just Nash equilibrium kind of thing. And with weather, I didn't choose volcanoes, but I was going to. And then tornadoes, so like a bit more complicated, but if you don't get the equation right, it doesn't form a tornado, like virtually maybe.
Right, yeah.
But so you have to really dial it in. Maybe if you don't do the full equation, you just do like sliders. And if you don't get it right, it doesn't form a tornado. And you can like maybe get comments like it wasn't the air, it wasn't humid enough. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah. I like that.
It wasn't my suggestion, but I can see somebody's put splash photography up there. And I wonder whether there are quite cool things you could do where you show people how to use their own mobile phones to take really interesting photos which are fluids related, because you can do all sorts of effects if like you're a teenager and you know how to do it properly.
Yeah.
But maybe, allow people to then take it away with them to do stuff afterwards.
I don't think. On the rotating fluids, I saw your rotating tables. You can combine that with the photography. If the physicists put their own mobile camera in the rotating frame of reference, they can have a quick recording and then juxtapose that with the recording in and outside the frame. And it's very easy to do. And then they also have something to take home and you can see the differences. It's very easy to do.
Thank you. I have 3 quick comments, if that's all right, with 3 different hats on. First, as a mathematician here at Leeds, infrared camera experiments are always really popular in science centres, and I've seen them stolen by science centres such as Doctoral Bank, where you can relocate them to thermodynamics and physics and maths here. So an IR camera is a really popular one to put in. Second hat, as someone who used to work at the Royal Institution and at Doctoral Bank in science communications, very careful pricing. And that sort of brings in the third hat as well. As a parent with kids going to activities all over the place, and constantly being asked for money by my school to support these activities, I think you really have to carefully target yourselves and carefully price yourselves. I wish you really good luck with this. It's a really good idea.
Oh, we'll Tisha for the last one, then we'll move on.
Thank you. Just a suggestion, like, so normally kids used to, like, like make paper planes, paper boats. So what we learn in fluid dynamics, aerodynamics is like different shapes have different dynamics. And so when you make even paper planes, you could make different shapes, and that could affect what is like, if we throw a paper plane, how much distance or how much height it will go.
Yeah.
That would be basically affected by the dynamics and also the shape of the wing and the plane you are making. So that would not only teach children if they are involved, it would also like inspire them to do something new.
Yeah.
So that is just my suggestion. It would be cheap, free. It could be organized anywhere, open.
Cheers. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, so the other thing we wanted to chat about is basically what other projects the LFD are involved with. So currently they're looking at creating a short comic book for the Be Curious Read program. So this initiative is all about creating different short stories about researchers and research that happens at Leeds. And it's all about getting young kids to understand, what the researchers do all day, what kind of research and how importantly does it affect their kind of everyday life. And the other thing, so like I mentioned, me and Ciara, we've got a couple of outreach demos, and a lot of these are kind of available for you as LFD members to be able to take and use. So we're going to demonstrate them and show you just like what you can do with them, but they're all open for people to sort of take to different places. And in addition to that, they've got continual rolling funding. So they've supported a lot of students to develop different activities, also go and present workshops. And then as Katie said, they've kind of helped develop a lot of different exhibits for MathsCity. And then kind of the other place where sort of outreach is really driven is by all the students in the LIFD. So there's this is a very shortened list of all the different things that people have been involved with. So we've got kind of industrial engagement with like the Met Office or JBA, different workshops and presentations for more established outreach programs like the Pint of Science, or kind of different talks in schools and colleges. And then also there's kind of people that have been employed by the university to do different outreach fellowships and different schemes with the University of Leeds. And me and Ciara, we're just going to talk about a couple of these. So we're going to talk about Be Curious, the Government Office for Science, and then the Fluids Photo Competition. I keep going to press that when I have the clicker, but I don't know why. So the Fluids Photo Competition, this was kind of started with the CDT students just to create a competition about fluid dynamics for Key Stage 3 students. And it was all about showing what the LFD is all about, that kind of breadth, that kind of ubiquity of fluid dynamics in the world around us. And so the idea is to show fluids in a creative way, but also gives sort of students a way to get some hands-on experimental sort of experience with fluid dynamics. So they did this partly with the competition side. That's where you can get sort of creative and understand sort of fluid dynamics around us. But then they also developed a really good teaching pack that's got loads of experiments and different explanations on fluid dynamics concepts. And it helps sort of teachers as well as people at home to explore different concepts at home outside of the curriculum, and also relate it to the curriculum that they will study in school. So last year, Emily Butler and I, we took over running this competition, and we kind of wanted to extend all this great work that previous students had done. And we sort of opened it up to include Key Stage 2 students. So this was kind of off the back of going and doing different events in MathsCity. And we saw that even the younger kind of students were really engaged, really involved in different kind of things. And we thought, well, if they're kind of interested, why not let them apply? Why not let them kind of enjoy fluid dynamics like everyone else can? And then we also gave the competition a theme. So last year we chose fluids in nature, and that was kind of the back of everyone really wanting to get back outside after kind of COVID times and things like that, and really explore actually how is fluid dynamics just in the natural world. And I just got a couple of different entries. So the two on the kind of outsides, I really like, and this is why I get involved with the competition, is because I think a lot of times students are kind of classified as like artistic or STEM. There's never this kind of broad, there's no kind of interplay between them, but the competition is really good because it lets creative students explore the science of something. It lets the scientific students explore how to sort of look at things creatively. So we got some really creative entries to this competition, and hopefully, does that play? Yeah. And then the middle video is from kind of a year 4 student, so someone that's 8, 9 years old, and it really shows that the younger students are looking at the outside world and thinking, what's going on? How can we explain this? How can we start describing this? So that it really kind of was good to be able to open up the competition to these students at that age. And that kind of brings me on to this year. So the competition is now fluids at home, so it's even easier than last year to enter. You don't even need to leave the house. You can just take a picture of something in your house, write about it, and enter the competition. So it's going to open in kind of mid-Feb once the teaching pack's all done. And then the deadline's going to be towards the end of summer, so it gives you enough time to kind of have a look at it. And if any of this kind of sounds interesting, and I think really what off the back of what Kath was saying, something I was interested in is how can we get kids just taking pictures with their like phone camera. If you're interested in getting involved with that, trying to develop a workshop, please come and talk to me. And I think last year we worked with Katie as well to advertise at MathsCity. So if anyone's interested in kind of advertising the competition, that'd be really great. And with that, kind of hand over to Ciara.
Yeah, so oh, I haven't got my mic on. Hello? Yeah, I guess. Yeah, so I'm going to talk a little bit about Be Curious Live, which some of you might have heard of before. And it's an event at the university. Happens once a year, normally in May on a Saturday, and it's mainly families that attend the event. And it's sort of mainly held in Parkinson. And last year there was 1,600 people on campus, and there were 40 stalls and events. So the idea is you submit a proposal for a stall with an activity, and the activities are all quite hands-on and really interactive to get young children and their parents or family members interested in what your research is. So we've been involved in 2022 and 2023. In 2022, we took the rotating tables, which Julie's going to be showing a demo of at lunch. But we highlighted concepts such as turbulence, convection, and we also had a real life example of the Great Pacific Garbage Patch. It was really interactive, very messy, really hands-on, but it was really fun. And yet you sort of get families, younger kids, also their parents, maybe the teenagers. It sort of strikes up a conversation about your research. And I think people are always quite shocked when we then go into our individual research, when we start talking about, like, I'm looking at disease transmission, things like that, and people are like, oh, how have you got into that? So it sort of generates really good conversations as well. And then in 2023, Yeton and Emily went with the flood defence wave tank activity that Katie described earlier, where the children can make a wave and then use different flood defences to look at how effective they are. And yeah, that went down really well as well. So this year, me and Yeton were thinking about what we could take, and we got talking to Sepida, who gave a talk about her research yesterday. And Sepida's already developed a really good activity, which she's taken to different events at museums and places like that. And it's sort of focused on her research, looking at non-wetting properties of natural surfaces like insects and plants, to think about how we can take inspiration from those surfaces to manufacture surfaces that can resist wetting and contamination. So, like I said, Sepida's already developed this, so we want to think about how we can collaborate with SEPIDA and take this activity a bit further, maybe get some additional funding, things like that. And just also the people power as well, because I think she's been carrying all these big boxes to these events, so we can help out that way as well. And then I'm just going to briefly talk a little bit about some science policy activities that I've been involved with. So I've got a bit of like a personal interest in science policy. I've always been quite interested in government, so it's kind of worked out like a good overlap between science and government. If you don't know what science policy is, there's sort of effectively two strands, where one is science for policy, so making sure that policymakers have access to and understand research in their policy area. And then there's also policy for science, so ensuring the policies promote high quality research in science. So there's something called a UKRI policy internship, where it's a 3-month internship for PhD students, and you can apply to different departments. They're mainly government bodies and government departments, and I applied to Go Science, which is the Government Office for Science, and I did a 3-month internship there April last year. So Angela McLean is the Government Chief Scientific Advisor, if you recognise her picture on the right. You might know Patrick Vallance, he was on the TV a lot in COVID. He was the previous one, but his term came to an end, and Angela's now stepped in. And she just started when I got there, basically, so we were both kind of newbies. But what I found in the internship, I wasn't necessarily applying like my fluid dynamics knowledge, like my maths, my physics day to day, but I was using all my skills I've learned through my PhD. And I kind of thought that speaking to a lot of the different people who make policies and are involved in that process, although a lot of them have scientific backgrounds, some don't, and they're kind of trying to be generalists, so knowing a lot about knowing lots of different subjects and different fields in science, and not necessarily being an expert in one field. So they are really interested in speaking to people who are the experts, and to get to sort of scrape their minds and speak to them to find out information. And I think that it'd be good if we could maybe get at LIFT the early career researchers a bit more involved in speaking to policymakers, because I would say that even at the early stages of your PhD, you're more than qualified in your area to be advising policymakers on these topics. So I think it'd be really good if we could get some more engagement between the two, because it's sort of a win-win situation for both people. And off the back of the internship, I had an idea to have a science policy seminar, maybe in February or March, where it would be a few, maybe 1 or 2 speakers, followed by a panel event. And it would be just sort of, it would help the students engage with policymakers a bit more, so making connections with people who are in their fields in research, and also just learning a bit more about science policy, so how the field links to maybe potential careers, or making those connections really. So I am kind of looking for speakers, or maybe people for the panel. So if you've got any ideas of people maybe who are based in Leeds or Manchester, I would be interested in getting their details, or if you yourself might be. So please speak to me in the lunch breaks, or contact me via email. That's kind of the end of the talk. I also wanted to say Yatin's just got an internship at BRI, and at the RI doing outreach for 3 months starting May, so I didn't want to mention that, but I thought it was really good. So, yeah, thank you. Does anyone have any questions at all? Thank you.